This is going to be the first video in a series of going over market profile and what it looks like when we have a gap up scenario or simply a scenario where we are opening up at the edge of value. The reason being is that market profile, it's hard to use earlier in the session because the profile is not developed yet. So it's more risky to take a trade in the morning unless you know exactly what you're looking for. And that's the idea behind these videos is on these scenarios where we have a higher probability trade simply because we're opening up on a gap or outside of the prior day's value. I really want to find out what I need to be looking for in order to take that early trade, more than likely in the first 30 to 45 minutes of the day. So we'll start here on the 15th or 16th rather of September. The context is going to be we have overnight inventory, which is net long. So if we do move back into this range, then we do have some overnight holders that are going to be offsides, giving us some additional momentum down, which is helpful. That's another confluence if we do break into that range. The other thing is that as we approach that level, really the only two things I'm going to be looking at are relative volume and then also delta, which I have this study that a fellow trader helped me develop, and basically just highlighting the delta bars that are higher than usual, higher than what we've seen in the past for that specific time, right? So anyway, let's hit play and let's see what happens. Again, we're just going to be monitoring to see exactly how volume and delta interact with this level, and that will tell us whether we should be going long or short. So right off the open, we've got a little bit of indecision. So that's not a good sign just in terms of confidence in any direction. You can see we're swapping around the open here. All right, so as we approach that level, that's extremely high delta right there. And we obviously want to see that volume, either volume or just get some type of confluence from the actual bar itself. I do 3 minutes here as we approach that level, or as we pass through that level, I should say. Oh, something happened here. All right, had to restart this. I'm not sure exactly what time we were in. Anyway, you see this bar. This is the prior day high right here. And we are breaking through that level with not the highest volume, but we do have a fair amount of delta here. The pink is basically, I think, like 400 times what the delta was in the past 30 days in that at that time, or just on average. So we do like the pink color. It's either going to be gray, green, red, pink, or I think this this blue color here. So let's just see what happens as we break through that level. So I'm more favoring the short side, a failed breakout type of scenario, just because of what we see right here with the delta. You can see that we had a movement up with delta around that level, but that's actually something that I'm mulling over my head right now in terms of is this delta, is this activity right here even relevant? Am I really just going to be looking at delta as we pass through that level? That's the camp that I'm in right now. Is that this is maybe relevant, but far less relevant than actually the push through prior day high. So let's see what happens here. Let's adjust this a little bit so we can see more of that delta action. Pushed right through it. Now, I'm not going to be going over the whole day on these. I'm just simply going to be showing exactly what to look for. So as we push into that level, this is what you should look for. This high delta right here. It's not accompanied with the most volume, but you can't get greedy with that. Obviously, if we had very high volume and very high delta and a very big bar, that's where you can just risk on, maybe even increase your size on the trade just because you added confluence. But right here, we're willing to give up this high volume or this average volume, I should say, because we're willing to overlook that or just not put a lot of weight on it and put more weight on the delta, because that's what it looks like when we pass through the level. So I'm just going to speed up here just to see if it was a success. Really, whether it's a success or not is irrelevant. We're just looking for what does it look like when we pass through that level. All right, I would consider that a success. This is what it looked like. Big pink bars showing a lot of negative delta as we pass through that level. That is what you should look at when you get into the trade. And we are about, where would I have gotten in here? So we've got this first bar, the second. This is where you want to get in. You have a confirmation of this high delta bar, right? And then right around 840, maybe even 842, where you want to get in and place your stop loss somewhere up here. So let's go on to the next day. So now we're going to be on the 19th of September. That's a Thursday. Some of the context here, we've got overnight inventory is 100% net long. So we know that if we do break into this area, then we're going to have a lot of overnight holders that need to liquidate, thus giving us a little bit more momentum going down because they're all closing out their positions. Some of the things to notice here is that this is the prior day high, but that's a spike, right? So you can look up spike rules on that. Jim Dalton and Peter Resnicek both have rules regarding spikes, but really the more relevant level here is this edge. You can see pretty clearly that you've got more or less a poor high, except for this excess. So that's going to be the level that I'm going to be looking at rather than this prior day high. How delta reacts to that level is not going to be relevant. How it reacts to this level is going to be relevant. So as we open the day here, that's essentially what I'm going to be looking for. And again, ideally we want to see high volume, high delta, and then price movement, like a big bar going right through that level, or a variation of one of the three, right? If we have very low volume, we want to see very high delta. If we have very high delta or very low delta, that pretty much eliminates the trade idea because you need delta. But anyway, let's just hit play and see what happens. So far I'm getting very high delta, but that was paired with not much volume. Not much volume, and that's even at the open. So the open, this was about normal. There's a normal amount of volume for the open with very high delta, but price didn't really go anywhere. High delta, but a doji bar, right? So I'm not feeling the confidence in the upside. Or essentially that high delta that's paired with that type of candle, that's not giving me enough confidence to take the long. That's how I should say that. So we're swapping around the open again, showing not much confidence in any direction. So that's a knock on the trade. Okay, here we go. We're approaching the single prints. Approaching the single prints. How we go through that level is what I'm most concerned with. Okay, so you've got decent volume, about average, I would say. You've got this high delta here paired with a candle. And then as we pass through that, it's a fair amount of delta. Let's think about this here. So we haven't crossed through that yet, but let's see exactly what delta looks like after that bar closes. That's not a good sign. That is not a good sign. As we're pushing through that level, we get this indication right here that delta is indecisive at that level. Am I going to take a long here right off the bat? No. I'd like to see some additional confirmation, but let's see what happens. Ooh, that's a good sign. All right, so here's the thought process. This bar right here, again, what would it be, like 178% of, you can see on this side here. So you've got, all right, so not sure where I left off, but picking up here, you can see that right as we approach that level, again, the top of this single prints, we had delta basically indecisive with a crazy amount of delta just after that. So actually, once this bar closes, I'm getting in right here. So that to me says, just the fact that here's the couple confluences you have on your side. So we're on a breakout type of mentality. We're opening up at the edge of the range, pretty much above the range if you don't count the spike here. And what you want to see if we are going to be going lower is price continuing down here, elongation of the profile. And if it comes back to the single prints, then the odds of continuation are lower. Not only that, if it comes back to the single prints and it comes back to the open, that is a very bad sign of going lower, right? So essentially what we're looking at is a couple different levels of confluence with price backing off from these levels and paired with higher than usual volume right here. So we're at 200% relative to the last, I believe, 30 days. And then this extremely high delta. So that is where you would want to take your trade. Basically at the close of this bar, and then place your stop loss probably just below the low of the day here. So let's just see if it plays out. Honestly, whether it plays out or not is irrelevant. We're just looking at what it looks like at the trade as we approach that level and just getting kind of our reps in. We're just looking for what it looks like, what delta, volume, what the bars look like, and just trying to get repetition in there so we know exactly what we're looking at in the morning. So it looks to be working out. Perfect. That's it for that day. Again, once we hit that level, delta dried up. The volume was higher, but we really need to see some activity from the delta in the negative sense. And then right after that, basically the proof of the pudding is this extremely high delta relative to the day. So move on to the next one. All right, so we're looking at the 25th of September here. This is going to be a larger gap. So you can see here that from the prior day low, 77 down to 60, it's a 17-point gap, which is substantial. These days are harder to trade. At least that's what everybody that teaches, trading or market profile is just, it's more difficult to trade. Some of the levels that we're going to be taking a look at here. On a gap day, the name of the game is, are we going to close the gap or not? So one of the two levels I'm going to be looking at here are, if we get to the prior day low, what does delta, volume, and price, and what does the profile look like as we approach that level or as we go through it? Same thing with the overnight low. Let's just keep this simple. Those are the two levels I'm looking at. There's really nothing inside of this range that we can lean on in recent history. So let's hit play and see what happens. And very briefly, overnight inventory is net short. There's really nothing that is going to help us with that unless price gets above the overnight high right here. So let's take a look. Price opening up, we come right down to this level. Overnight low, are we going to break through it? Let me get delta on the screen, that might help. All right, let's keep see what happens here. So we hit that level, we're busting through. That is a good sign. So we've got high delta going through that level. Volume is normal, right? But I think given the circumstance, we've got a high confidence open to the low side. We didn't chop around that at all. We pair that with this high delta right here. The knock on the trade is just normal volume. Ideally, you want to see high volume, but let's see how that plays out. Continue lower, continue lower. And sometimes these aren't always going to work out. I mean, it works out in the short term, right? We're seeing an increase in volume, increase in delta, and obviously these bars are really are widening. So Yeah, that's essentially what that looks like. We approached that level, overnight low. That was really the only level that we could lean on. We had a confident open to the downside, and then once we went through it, is high delta. So that's the name of the game. I'm gonna stop this video because I don't want OBS to crash and basically erase everything that I've done, and then we'll pick it up on the next date on the next video.